Hi there, my name is Beth MacDonald Stone and I'm an avid knitter and knitwear designer coming to you from Bermuda. In a new location, trying the living room. It's at the end of the house, so we shouldn't have too many disruptions of people coming through, but they can still pass around. The lighting is good, there's windows right there, so I'm trying to keep my head a little tilted down so that the reflection's not too distracting. And we'll just give it a whirl. And it's kind of fun, it's seasonal. I've just got the Christmas tree up, not decorated, just the lights in the tree for Thanksgiving, and then we'll decorate shortly after. But yeah, so I hope you like the new location. I hope it works out well for lighting, noise, distractions, you name it. Luna's joining me. She's got her favorite chair right over there, so she's happy and content. And fingers crossed we can do it. All right, so great to see you. It's such a fun time of year, my favorite time of year. I've got my cheat notes here, which are all of the things that we're going to talk about today, and those will, of course, be listed down below for you with all the colors and yarns and stuff like that. So that's in the description below. I have to write it out myself, and I'm just going to put it right here on the computer because I can never remember names of colors, let alone yarns. So some people are amazing at it. It's not me. Anyways, so yeah. Okay, so let's start with a featured pattern. This is one I'm really excited about. I knit this and designed this summer. It's been test knit by a lot of lovely test knitters, and so everyone is fabulous. And I would encourage you to look on Ravelry. The name of the pattern is called Simply the Best Entredeux. Entredeux is a French word that describes a traditional stitch pattern that we would use in working with linens or whatever. So I know my grandmother would make a trousseau. I don't know if trousseau is a big word, but before your marriage or your wedding, you would put together bed linens and stuff. And traditionally people would take their bed linens and to decorate the hems of their sheets or whatever, you would kind of pull stitches and kind of create an area that you could pass a ribbon through. And so that's what this stitch, here, let me see if I can come closer, that this stitch resembles here, an entredeux stitch in sewing. So, sorry, it's gotten a little bit warm, so I'm, anyways, so there's no ribbon passing through. It's all done through slip stitches, so it's all in the knitting pattern. So effectively it's a 3-colored slip stitch yoke, but I love it. You can see there's little like the V's above, and then this kind of area here, which is slightly raised with like a pearl raise, and then it looks like that orange is a ribbon going through, but it's just orange yarn. Beautiful orange yarn. The yarn is from Dimond Laine that I'm using, which is the Lemon Kid, and it's called Elmer Worsted, and I'm using the color Cookie, which is the natural color, High Viz, which is the orange, and Salted, which is this really crisp, clear blue green. More blue than green, but just really crisp. I really love it. I'm really pleased with it. I'm sorry if I start to melt here. We're going to talk. I think it's going to be a short one. I don't have a whole lot to say today, so good thing it's going to be a short one. I've got all the windows and everything closed because there's gardeners and there's everything. Anyways, we're trying to not be distracted. I pinched my thumb when I was getting ready, getting this at this height. Anyways, we're going to keep going. And yeah, so all the best entredeux. It's very simple. It's a simple yoke sweater. Because of these little pretty V's that go above, I didn't want them going down, pointing down. I wanted them to point up. I think it's happier. So because of that, it's actually a provisional cast on that you cast on at your widest part. So basically right where you would divide for sleeves is where you cast on, and then you knit up and knit your yoke so that you have full control over your neckline, so the fit is just perfect for you, and then use those provisional stitches to knit down. So again, you have full control over your body length and everything like that, and of course sleeves too. I've done fairly straight sleeves. Sorry, I've just rolled everything up because it's a bit warm. I've done straight sleeves. I'm kind of in favor of straight sleeves right now. I think they're kind of very modern and rather chic. It's what appeals to me right now, but again, sleeves are so easy for you to customize to whatever fit you like best. With the provisional cast on, don't be deterred by that. It's really simple. I've linked in the pattern a really wonderful video tutorial on how to provisionally cast on very simply, and the provisional stitches are held onto an extra cable, for interchangeable cables, or a barber cord, or whatever you want, so that literally they're set up and they're ready to go when you knit down. The cast on is so simple. To be honest, it's almost easier than just a German twisted cast on or whatever. I mean, when you really get it, it's just literally looping the yarn around the working needle and then the holding material, barber cord, whatever. So it's really easy. Don't be deterred. And in fact, actually, maybe it's a good one to use for just, learning a new learning a new technique that sounds potentially overwhelming, but isn't actually in the end. So so that's this. And like all of my new release patterns, it is on sale 20% off, no coupon required on Ravelry until December 6th. Midnight Atlantic Standard Time. So so it's there for you. I hope you love it. I've had a lot of great feedback from when I was knitting it to, boy, I'm just wilting, sorry. And I'll stop talking about that. When I was knitting it to, the whole process. So I'm really thrilled about it. I'm really excited. It's not hard. It's really fun. One of my lovely test knitters knit it, Tassie. Tassie Studio is a great podcast if you don't know it. But so Tassie knit it, and she did it in Christmas colors, and it looks amazing. So it's going to be her sort of holiday Christmas sweater, and I think it's just going to be spectacular. So so that's that. So Simply the Best Entredeux, available now on Ravelry. Go check it out. Thanks so much. What have I finished? I really haven't finished anything except for this morning. I finished the November socks from Summerly Knits. Literally just finished them this morning with my coffee. This is what I work on with my coffee first thing. Really fun. The stitch motif, the Color Cuff collection is a collection that subscription collection that every month you get a new color work section here, and I've loved them. I think I've done most of them. I think I've only missed volume 1, and I look forward to doing more. So these look a little funny, hot off the needles, and heel flap and gusset. She gives you all the instructions, so there's nothing to worry about. Great tips also for color work for socks, because I've historically had problems with them not going over I think I've got a high instep, so I really need the extra space. So we go up a solid needle size here, which is why it looks a little balloony at this point in the sock, but when it's on my foot you really can't see it, and it goes over my heel very easily. One thing I would like to talk about, because I did just finish these this morning, is counting rows. So I have I figured out how many rows look really good for me, or fit me well, and so I mark it along every 10 rows after that's the last decrease there for the heel flap and gusset, anyways, whatever component that is, sorry. There, so it's the last decrease, and then every 10 rows I will put a stitch marker, and so I know that I've done 60 stitches, or 60 rows, and then I do 4 more, and then I start the decrease of the toes. I think this really helps. I'm sure most of you do this, so I don't think this is going to be any rocket science and anything for anyone. But I have heard some people talk about having a hard time keeping track of rows. And I do find that when you have a lot of rows, this is the easiest way, because what can happen is if you do have a lot of rows, it's very easy to get muddled and to skip a few and stuff. So if you're just doing bulk sections of 10, that is what I would suggest. I'm going to continue that thought onto one of my other patterns, and similarly I do the same for sleeves, and that's great, and it's also really helpful for designing, but we'll talk about that next. Before I move on from this is just knit with some strange scrap yarn. I'm not even sure what this is, the hot pink. It was the color I wanted, and it didn't even have to have anything important in it, like I think it's a rustic wool. It didn't have anything important like nylon or anything to reinforce, because of course this isn't a high friction area. I'm not going to be stepping on this. It doesn't need to be reinforced anyway. But the rest of the sock is knitted using Magpie Fibers. Sorry, I know this really. Swanky Sock. I love this. This is swanky. This is really lovely. And it just feels so good to knit with. the yarn is just so plump and juicy, and each stitch is really lovely, and so it's a joy to work with. The color I'm using here is Velvet Underground. Gosh, I have written down, but I was trying to do it memory. So Velvet Underground in the Swanky Sock. I love it, I love it. One of my treats to myself when I was at Rhinebeck was I picked up a couple colorways of Swanky Socks, specifically for the Colorwork Cuff Clubs, and this really, perfect. This was one of the colors that I picked up. So I'm really excited about those. I'll take out the stitch markers on both socks. I still have them. I do leave them also on both socks or both sleeves or whatever, because I can confuse myself, and I love the idea of when you put it, say for sleeves, you put it down one, and then when you're knitting the next sleeve or the next sock, you just transpose that over here. I am, which we talked about a lot in the last podcast, I'm a bit of a dreamer, and so when I start moving them, I can confuse myself. So I would prefer to have them all stay here, and with socks I'm getting more and more confident. But then I can just double check and I can line them up, and they will line up. And then I can feel very comfortable that everything is good. I find for socks, I'm more and more comfortable with socks, and you can almost eyeball it, and that's cool. But with sleeves, because I do a lot of designing, as you know, and I can knit a sleeve length and then I can pull it back and I can think, oh, I'm totally going to remember or whatever. It can get really confusing. And so if I'm switching the needle stitches back and forth, I haven't got those guides to be able to, at the end, hold them up together and make sure that I haven't changed my mind, redesigned, making sure that the two sleeves are totally identical, and then, of course, then the pattern is correct. I find that really helpful. So I do use a lot of these light bulb stitch markers, and so that I can mirror them and keep them mirrored, and they don't come off until I'm totally satisfied and I'm totally ready to wear. So those will come off. I'm very comfortable with that. But yeah, so that's what that's the socks, and so that'll take us right into this design that I'm working on that I'm really excited about. That's really fun, isn't it? I'm calling this a Bermudiana. It's sort of the Bermudiana flower. The flower is a blue. It's kind of a blue with a touch of purple in it, flower, and green stem, and they grow wild. More in this spring. But anyways, I just thought this was really pretty. So as you can see here, just continuing our thought on the stitch markers, or yeah, the light bulb markers, just blocked this, and I blocked it just to make sure that I find sometimes with sticky yarn that it can almost shrink up. I found that also with linen or natural curtains, where, you know, when you're working with whatever, the seamstress will work on them, and this is the same with a sleeve, and it would be pulled and pulled and pulled, and then when they're hung, pulled and pulled and pulled, and even ironed and stuff like that, which is very similar to knitting. So you'd be knitting away in your sleeve, and also you'd have the tension of it sort of coming up off of your needles this way. So there's a sort of a tension going on here. And I find sometimes with especially toothier yarns, less with superwash, it goes the other way, but with toothier yarns, once it's been washed and blocked and rested, it actually kind of tends to go up a little bit. So that's why I have just blocked this to make sure I'm really happy with this sleeve before knitting the other sleeve. And I think I am. I want to try it on one more time, but yeah. And so I will leave these stitch markers here to show where I've done my decreases, and to make sure that my next sleeve is completely identical and my notes are completely identical to write the pattern. So that's that. Now front and back. Okay, yeah, I've got it right way. So this is a bottom up sweater, and I am kind of knitting it and designing it as I go. Sorry, which way is the camera? There we go. So you'll see there's no hem on it, there's no ribbing on it. I will add that later, I'll pick that up. But in the pattern, it'll be bottom up. It's done in the round, so I have steeked the sleeves. I did a machine reinforcing. Can you see the dark blue reinforcing? I'm not sure if you can, but anyways, very easy, no problem, sticky yarn. I even got the feeling I didn't even need to use the machine, but I'm, you know, just for confidence sake. So over here, I picked up the sleeves. I'll hopefully tomorrow pick up the sleeves on this side here and mimic the sleeve. So yeah, so bottom up, a really simple stitch pattern. In the design, I will show you, or I will make suggestions on where you can carry your floats for the stock part. And this is a perfect project to learn ladder back jacquard, which will be a video tutorial will be in that, and that's great for in between so I put a ladder back jacquard sort of right in between the two, between the flowers, and that just, so then there's no odd floats being caught that come through in the front of the fabric. So it's a very clean, crisp fabric face, and I think are incredibly satisfying floats. Like, that's kind of cool, actually. It's sort of like a really cool sort of, I guess it could be worn inside out and be a cool mariner sweater. But anyways, you may see me doing that one day. You never know. Right. So bottom up, steep for sleeves, keep it in the round. Keep it in the round, going up to the top of the shoulders, and then using a quadruple decrease from the shoulders up to your neckline. So you have a nice little slope. The fit is great. And then at the neckline, you're still in the round. You haven't taken your needles out. Then you just continue and you have a turtleneck. And this, I haven't decided whether I'm going to stitch it down or just leave it. Right now, I quite like that look. Ooh, where am I going? That look there. With it just folded, and I think it stays really quite nicely because it's 6 inches, so it's a 3-inch folded neckline. And I'm really excited about that. So I'm going to work the next sleeve and then the hem, and then I can send the pattern to the tech editor and that. So maybe in the new year we'll be able to have some testing for this one. So this is the Bermudiana. Oh, and the yarn that I'm using for this, I'm going to refer to my notes because I don't think I have my bag down here for it. So, excuse me. So the Bermudiana, I'm using G-uld.dk No.3, which is G-uld.dk for Denmark. It's an amazing yarn from Denmark that I believe is all naturally dyed. I'm not really sure. A friend picked it up for me. It's really, really fabulous. I'm using this on a 5mm needle. I can't remember off the top of my head what the gauge is, but I think it's like a DK weight gauge. But I think it's basically a sport weight yarn or a fingering weight yarn, but it works so nicely and it blooms so beautifully. So that's wonderful for that. So that's the G-uld yarn. And then I've got Rauma Finullgarn PT2 in colors 0401 and 4006. So 0401 is the white, and that's being used on its own. And then 4006 is blue, and I'm actually holding that with a strand of Bien Aimee silk mohair in the color, I think it's Winterfell. And that's not that important. For me, that was more important just to use the colors that I had on hand, or the yarn I had on hand, and to push the blue to be a little bit more dramatic so that it was more noticeable, because I found that color on its own just kind of almost receded into the background color. So that's less than creating a gauge. It doesn't matter. It's entirely just to get a color that I'm happy with. I do knit everything pretty much. I mean, I travel and I pick up yarn, but then I kind of am forced to knit everything from stash. I do order yarn online, but it takes me about 3 to 4 weeks to get it. Even when I send it to my express freight forwarder who flies it in, it's a long process. It's really expensive. The air freight forwarder, so basically you would pay shipping to an address that I have in the States on the Eastern Seaboard. And then this air freight forwarder sends it to me and delivers it to my door here in Bermuda. It's a considerable extra charge. And then, of course, we have Bermuda duty, which is about 22%. So I try to pick up yarn when I travel. I still pay the duty because you pay it at the airport. That's not a big deal. That's just how it is in Bermuda, and I'm not going to play games with that. We can sometimes use the Royal Mail or USPS, whatever, or, the Canadian Post when I hope it goes back up soon, back to work, but anyways, everyone's do what they do. Anyways, whatever. It's just a bad time to be on strike. But yeah, so you can send it here. It's ever since COVID, the mail has been a problem. And it's not really been Bermuda, but it's been elsewhere. It's like the international warehouses by airports seem to have gotten totally jacked up during COVID, and things still get lost in it. Anyways, that's a bit of a postal tangent, but we're a small island and we know a lot about mail and how to import stuff. So when people say, oh, I don't like to buy from overseas, I'm like, everything I buy is overseas. So yeah, but the moral of the story is, going back, I try very much to use the yarn that I have and make do. So like the sweater that I showed a couple weeks ago that I knit for my husband, I didn't have a blue that worked really well with his for Fox Sake sweater, so I had a yarn that worked, but I just dyed it the color I wanted to. So with this, I didn't want to dye the blue here. I just added it to shift a color, which again, mohair is fantastic for, because it really doesn't add too much in the way of gauge. And I think it's great. I mean, it's going to be lovely and snuggly around my neck too. But that wasn't the real purpose of that. And actually, I'm going to continue that thought with my next sweater, which is this one here, because this one, which I'm really excited about. If you remember, I bought this stunning yarn, which I don't have much here. Oh, no. I'm down to just the last little bits of it, but oh gosh. It's a color changing yarn, and you can sort of see it's from Green Mountain Spinnery, and it's called Ragg-Time. The color is Armstrong, and I'm really thrilled with it. So you can see it color shifts. It's sort of a worsted weight, I believe, DK worsted weight yarn, and the color shifts all the way through. I have done a little bit of color management because there was a lot of this bright red, which I love, but I wanted it to be more balanced, so I took some out in the middle. There are some other little scraps of it. Anyways, when I saw it, it totally reminded me of Plaid. My maiden name is MacDonald, and it just spoke to me from the skein, like across the room. I was so excited about it. So immediately I knew what I wanted to do, and I wanted to make sort of a plaid check sort of look, which I did, and I wanted it to be a raglan. So you can see here the lovely raglan stitches and how it, maybe can you see it better over here? How I love how the raglan comes diagonally through the stitch motif. So it's really easy. This is just slip stitches, and the dark charcoal color that I'm using is Moodna color Trumpet, something. Black Trumpet. So I had some of this in stash. I wasn't sure how much I would need, and I had originally actually just thought that I was going to use nightshades, but the nightshades was so stark with this red, and it just was really jarring. So I went instead to Moodna. I needed more, so I ordered more, and it came in completely different. Actually, I wasn't as organized as I thought I was. So this is what the color that I had been using, as you can see, and what arrived was this. Yikes, not even close. Not even close. So I emailed the vendor, and she was super sweet and said, oh my gosh, let me look into it. Sorry, gosh, I am really warm. I'm so sorry, she contacted the mill, and I do understand that this is all, I believe this is sort of the color of the natural. I didn't realize at the time, but I do now. It's the color of the sheep. Okay, so quite different. So I had to dye it. So this is actually what I've dyed. So as you can see up here, this looks pretty much like that, because this was one of those. So again, just, she was so sweet and said, happy to send you, new or closer to that dye lot, I had already sent it to my air freight forwarder, paid duty, it had taken sort of 2 or 3 weeks not the vendor's problem. That was complete. That's just how the process is for me to customs and stuff like that. And I just couldn't I didn't want to pay for all that again. You can file to get your duty back and stuff like that, but I mean, it's a huge process, and is it really worth it? Whatever. So I just sort of thought, you know what, I'm just going to dye it and I'll just get it close as I can. The great thing is it's not, not be right on top of each other. So I'll just make sure that I start this bottom section here with the dyed yarn. And I think I've put an old tag on here. I'm not sure. I've messed it all up. But anyways, so the hem and then the cuffs, I'll make sure are from one, that they won't have two pieces together that might show a color change. But anyways, so that's living on an island, you have to basically be able to pivot, find a solution. Sometimes you send things back, or sometimes, if it's really, really a big dollar ticket item, but it wasn't worth it, and it wasn't worth the time. And this way I can keep on working on it. So for this, I've left this alone for a couple days just because I was working really hard on the sleeves shaping and stuff like that for the Bermudiana. I've got that down pat. I'll probably get the second sleeve going and then come back to this and revisit this and make sure that all my notes are up to date to at least this stage. But I'm really excited about this design. I don't have a design name for it yet, so I'll keep thinking about that. But I just think it's such exciting color, that Ragg-Time color Armstrong. And I hope you like it too. Yeah, and I'm thinking straighter sleeves for here, but I'm not sure. I'll work on that. So those are the designs I'm working on. And I am working on two designs at the same time, which I don't usually do. I find it a bit confusing. I find it a bit too much, which is why I, in the last week, stopped this to just focus on the other. And until I get back to sort of a coasting period on the other, then I'll come back to this. I find that sort of split brain work just doesn't work for me. My brain doesn't work like that. I'm really sort of a very focused person on one thing. I don't know how some other designers are amazing and can juggle multiple designs at any one time and flip back and forth with the writing of them and everything, and kudos to them. But my brain is not like that. It's not that elastic. It likes one thing. So the one other thing that I've cast on that I totally hadn't planned to cast on is the Holly sweater by Pernille Lawson. I believe she's from the mom involved with Olive Knits. It's a really big yarn chain. Anyways, I'll put it on the board, on the screen, because that's just ridiculous. Anyways, her Holly sweater design is lovely, and I believe it's meant for like 23 stitches per 4 inches or something. This is more like 17 or 18 stitches per 4 inches, and I'm really excited about it. I wanted a chunkier, I wanted a sort of more bold and dramatic. It's very tied up on my needles right now, or bunched up, I should say. And in this one, I'm using Cielo from Holst Garn up here in the color Coal. I'm using a green, which is just a number. What's the number? $12 from Drops Air. And it's a really pretty green because there's sort of like oranges and yellows in it too. And then for the berries, I'm holding 3 strands of sort of miscellaneous toothy yarn, just to get a kind of an interesting color and an interesting different texture too, which I wanted. This has been really fun. Again, there are some longer floats, especially between the berries, and so I've done more ladder back jacquard, which that part's not helping you. You can probably see that this is ladder back jacquard there and around. It's not the most beautiful floats just because it's all bunched up on the needles, but also, all bunched up on the needles. When it's finished, I'll show you. But the ladder back jacquard is great because I really like to have a crisp face fabric as possible, so that you're not distracted by any sort of dimples of other colors or sort of the background noise coming through. So I'm really excited about that. That's going to be a short sleeve sweater. I'm hoping to be able to wear it at Christmas. It was really chilly a couple weeks ago. I think the last time I podcasted, I was very comfy wearing a sweater. It's gotten sort of stuffy and hot again, and very humid. So when I'm knitting this, my hands get really warm. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to wear it, but I'm gonna definitely make it short sleeve and a little bit oversized and boxy for Christmas Day, so that it'll be helpful with aeration and stuff like that to keep me cool. So that's pretty much it. Let me just look at my notes again. Need notes for everything. Yeah, so Simply the Best Entredeux, that's the featured pattern. That's probably my last pattern to be published. Yeah, it is. The last pattern to come out this year, 2024. I've got 2 out in test knitting that'll come out in January of 2025. That's really exciting. It's been a wonderful year of really fun designs that I'm really excited about, and I hope you enjoyed them too. I thank you so much for all of that, for your purchases and your interest and your enthusiasm with the designs. That's just been fantastic and great, and makes me want to design more and come up with more ideas. And oh my gosh, I'm just completely overstimulated. So I had really no reason to cast this one on, but I just had to, so that's fine, whatever. Yeah, so this week is Thanksgiving in the States, so happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate, and otherwise I feel like it's kind of the start of the holiday season. I love that season. It's cozy, it's all about being at home, having lovely time with your family, and just being cozy at home. So I will come to you again in 2 weeks' time. But until then, happy knitting. Thanks so much. Bye.